Fasten your safety belts because you've joined us for the most exciting half hour in fishing. It's the 976 Tuna Saltwater Action Series coming at you next. 976 Tuna Productions presents the 976 Tuna Saltwater Action Series, bringing you the hottest saltwater fishing action from Southern California, Baja, California, and other areas around the world where fishing is great. Come let us show you the wonderful world of sport fishing as we take you out and show you some great fish caught and show you how you can become a more productive angler. Hosted by the voice of the 976 Tuna Hotline, Philip Friedman. Produced and arranged by Bob Alvarez. The 976 Tuna Saltwater Action Series is made possible by the Searcher, the Tri-Lane Big Game, the Del Mar, the Qualifier 105, Redondo Sport Fishing, and the 976 Tuna Hotline, where great fishing information is only a phone call away.
Welcome back to the show, everybody, and welcome to
Fisherman's Landing in San Diego, home of the beautiful, gorgeous, long-range sport fisher, Polaris Supreme. She's a gorgeous boat, capable of making journeys up to 16 days and typically fishing on 5 to 8 day trips. And we welcome you on board the Supreme because we're heading to the Loop. That's Guadalupe Island, 220 miles south of San Diego, as we head out and decide to go take a look at some of the most marvelous sport fishing on Yellowtail you could ever imagine. The Loop is full of Yellowtail, but not just Yellowtail, quality big Yellowtail. You look out there, you see that rock? It's Pilot Rock, legendary for the marvelous bites. And so is Tuna Alley, where the big bluefin tuna come through and crash. And I'm talking big 200-pound bluefin, a marvelous place to realize your sport fishing dreams. But there's all kinds of things. Scientists up there on Guadalupe Island doing experiments, living there on the land. And the Guadalupe fur seal, you'll see it now. The Russians pushed it to the brink of extinction. It's making a marvelous comeback at Guadalupe Island. Not only will you experience sport fishing, you'll experience the island itself, and you'll see all kinds of crazy stuff. No, that's not the fish finder. That's a little toy Tommy Rothery and I were playing with. The skipper of the Polaris Supreme, a great guy, always full of fun. Tommy Rothery, the Riddler, he is always at your service, ready to do it right. Well, let's get to the big Yellowtail at Guadalupe Island. It's time for you to experience the big yellows at the Loop. Hey folks, you've caught us again up in the wheelhouse with my good friend Tommy Rothery up here in the Polaris Supreme's wheelhouse. And you've got a mackerel with you, don't you? What is this thing?
This is our buddy the mackerel. You forgot to mention he was up here with us.
Yeah, he looks like he's in terrible shape.
He's in real bad shape. He looks like this though. We've done this to him for a good cause. We've pinned all these hooks in him for demos. A couple things about hooking your bait. We're going to talk about hooking a mackerel. You can hook a mackerel in a million different places here, as you've seen.
All these ways are effective?
Yeah, this is all for mackerel hooking, what we have set up right here. And you're going to hook him in the nose like this, up through the top of the mouth, or through the nose right here like this, sideways, a couple little white spots in front of most mackerel, or right behind the gill like this. And we would say to you, like, hook your bait in the forward part of the body. And we're talking about those three positions right there. And you do that when you're using a sinker rig, like a dropper loop, going down to the bottom. Or if you're fly lining a bait and you got a lot of current. And the reason you're doing that, if you got a lot of current, you want to straighten your bait out in the current sometimes. Sometimes you'll get bit pumping your bait back in.
It looks more natural that way.
Yeah, it looks more natural. If your bait dies on the sinker rig, you know, it'll at least lay there looking halfway alive in the current. They'll bite it anyway. When you're fly lining the bait up on the surface, you'll hook him in the back area usually. Sometimes you can hook him in the nose, but also you can hook him in the back area. And you're going to do that when you don't have much current. You'll hook him underneath, just below his anal fin there, or up in the back. This center position right here, that's for kite fishing, which we did some of that at the end of the trip there.
Yeah.
You hook it right in the middle of the body so that he flips around right on the surface. That way he can't go up or down. This position down underneath here in the breast, we'll hook a mackerel there to get him swim down. This is without a sinker, so he'll swim down. Scad baits like we caught at the island there,
right.
Those go down great. They're fantastic for that. A couple other things. Sardine bait. If you're using sardines, you can nose hook them crossways in the gill like this. You really can't hook them up through the top. Or you can go ahead and hook him in the gill right there in the collarbone. Now the collarbone, you can't really see it on this thing right here, but it's right along the edge there, and you'll just barely catch that bone. You need to ask the deckhand on the boat to show you, because they don't make rubber mackerel with collarbones. But you'll also hook an anchovy that way.
Yeah, we haven't seen many of those for a few years.
No, we haven't. No,
we haven't seen many anchovies.
And I think the main reasons for not seeing a lot of anchovies is not. You know, it seems like, picture this now, for years and years we had tons of anchovies, right? Tons of anchovies. They were fishing the sardines heavy for reduction, and then all of a sudden, you know, they cut them off on their quotas or stuff, and you start to see the sardines come back. And now you don't see that many anchovies. There's anchovies around, but you don't see them in the big volume. So it seems like there's always something going to replace the other thing out there in the ocean, or most of the time, yeah.
Now, you carry this thing around with you, or what?
Yeah, I put him in my seminar box. I take him to the sushi bar with me so I can show the guy how to cut up my lunch and things like that.
That's weird. That's weird. Tommy Rothman with this little mackerel. I hope you learned something there, folks. Tommy Rothery's happy to show you his little mackerel at any time. Just ask him, and he'll show you his little mackerel and tell you all about it. There it is, one of the most prolific yellowtail spots at Guadalupe Island, Pilot Rock. See it back there? It is an awesome area for the yellowtail. And you see Jim right there on the stern throwing out a chum line, trying to attract this grade of yellowtail to the Polaris Supreme. Beautiful, big quality yellows are what inhabit the Guadalupe Island area. And like most members of the jack family, the amberjack, etc., the yellowtail pulls ever so hard. They're a magnificent fighting fish, and that's why, if you're on one of these trips to Guadalupe Island, you want to take these yellowtail on with a heavier monofilament. 40-pound is just about right, but in some cases you can even bump it up to the 60-pound mono. The only time I would drop down below 40-pound mono is when the fish are finicky. They're touchy. They won't bite the 40-pound mono. Then you can drop down to 25. But remember, Guadalupe Island has all kinds of obstacles. Kelp and rocks and everything else that these yellows can maneuver their way into and saw you off. So make sure you fish the heavy string with a big hook if at all possible. Look at this grade of yellowtail. It is absolutely gorgeous. Warren here in a big battle. Look at that big reel with a heavy line, and he's got that yellow turned around. They put a calf in it, and they're going to put it up on the Polaris Supreme right now. Folks, there's several ways to take the yellowtail. Most of the guys right now are fishing bait. Make sure you keep in mind all the methods Tommy talked about in terms of how to hook that bait. But perhaps the most important thing I can stress to you is choosing a good hot bait. The bait in the well that's the hardest to catch is the one you want. Take a look in there. See that bait? You find the hottest bait possible, and that's the one that's going to get you a bite every single time. And by fly lining that bait or even sinker fishing, you'll get a lot of bites by doing it. Folks, now you can fly line. That means using no sinker at all. You can use the dropper loop method. And then, of course, there is the iron. The iron is so effective on yellowtail, whether it's a surface iron or a yo-yo iron. I'll tell you the difference here in a moment. It's super effective. In this case, it is the surface iron. Caddy 45's great. Candy bars get the job done. And yellowtail love a fast retrieve. That's how you catch the yellow. They want that fast retrieve. So you make your cast, give it a count, and then wind on it. And man, those yellows will bounce on it every single time. Mike, we like to call him Iron Mike because he fishes the jig so very well. Take a look at that nice yellowtail. Now, when you're yo-yoing a jig, you just sink it much deeper. Sink it down to 100, 200 feet and wind on it again just about as fast as possible. Remember, the yellow wants that fast retrieve, and that's what we want to see you do. So there's the iron, there's the bait, and boy, I'll tell you, the dropper loop. Sometimes at night, I'll tell you, Bob Alvarez, it's his favorite kind of fishing, dropping a big slab or a big bait down there on the bottom of Guadalupe Island at night, produces some of the biggest, most magnificent yellowtail bites you can ever imagine. Take a look at deep color on this fish. He's almost got it up there near the gap. Remember, keep these yellows right in front of you. Yes, another gap, another big yellowtail coming on board the Polaris Supreme. These are huge, big, beautiful yellowtail. And this is not out of the ordinary. This is commonplace at the Loop. Guadalupe Island producing some of the best yellowtail action you could ever imagine. Take a look at the size of this fish. This happy angler, as proud as can be, and for good reason. It is really a marvelous, marvelous catch. The area around Guadalupe Island erupts with yellowtail, typically in the springtime, and goes right on into the summer. It can be absolutely awesome. You can also get some wintertime bites. It is absolutely one of the best yellowtail areas you'll ever experience. Take a look as another big yellowtail hits the deck of the Polaris Supreme.
On the surface iron, Felipe?
Yeah, Bob, Guadalupe Island yellows, they were really crashing back there in the stern. As you know, you have quite a few fish on the bait. But Tom Rothery and I were watching them up here in the bow crash, just walked in, winged an iron, and wham! Nice big yellow on the surface crank. And, you know, they're quality fish here. This is one of the smaller ones, really, that we've caught. But real nice quality fish. We're fishing Pilot Rock at Guadalupe Island. A lot of fun, and whether you're yo-yoing an iron or the surface crank, it can be super, super effective here at Guadalupe Island. We sure hope you can get to Guadalupe Island soon and take on these magnificent fighting yellowtail, big and really super fighting fish. The yellowtail at Guadalupe Island, some of the most magnificent fish you will ever battle. And don't forget, there's more to Guadalupe Island. There's yellowfin tuna, there's big calico bass, there's so much. And we'll be back in shows to show you all the rest of the Loop also. Hope you can get down there. A great trip on the Polaris Supreme to Guadalupe Island. We are going to go to a commercial right now, which will give you a look at one last big, beautiful yellowtail from the Loop at Guadalupe Island. Back in a moment, folks. Enjoy it. It's marvelous fishing.